What's good, sports fans? Are you ready to elevate your live entertainment experience? Well, let me introduce you to SeatGeek, an amazing platform that connects you to your favorite events while saving you money. With SeatGeek, you can easily find tickets for sports games, concerts, and so much more, all in one place. The interface is user-friendly, making it simple to browse and compare prices. And one of the best features is the interactive seating chart. You can see exactly where you'll be sitting and how much you'll be spending, ensuring you get the best value for your money. But here's the best part. Check this out. By using my promo code, ChalkItUpSports, you can enjoy a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. That's right, $20 off your first SeatGeek order. Imagine catching that thrilling game or concert without breaking the bank. It's a win-win situation. Plus, you'll be a part of a community of fans who eat, sleep, and breathe live events just as much as you do. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to download the SeatGeek app today. And don't forget to use my promo code ChalkItUpSports for a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. Get excited. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah. What's good? This is your boy Tone DeShields the second. You guys are locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter we win or we lose, we just got to trudge it to the game. Y'all know the vibes. Y'all know the energy. Y'all know where my body be. You feel me? So make sure you guys continue to stay locked in. I appreciate you guys for always supporting your boy through thick and thin, rain, sleet, or snow. I know y'all trained to go. You feel me? So I know we've been getting a lot of bad weather. I know a lot of the cities, especially on the East Coast, are doing a lot of recovering. And I know a lot of that snow still has not left. Some of your cars are still locked and loaded on the curb. And you know what? We're going to get at those plowers too. I done seen too many videos of y'all city plowers being a little too excited about jamming people into their parking spot with that snow. I saw this one viral video. My man was driving a snow plow, and he was like, with the evil laugh too. If I can't get out my car, if I can't move my car, none of y'all will. And I think it was Philly. So look, man. The bottom line is, hopefully y'all staying warm. Hopefully the snow is beginning to melt for you guys and that ice. But nonetheless, we got some things to get into. I really couldn't wait to get here with you guys because the Philadelphia Eagles continue to make things interesting for content creators like me, and they continue to find ways. They continue to find ways to make it interesting for fans like y'all, right? So as we already know, the Philadelphia Eagles did sign Shawn Mannion. They brought in Shawn Mannion as their new offensive coordinator. We know when it comes to Shawn Mannion, young guy, 33 years old, born in San Jose, California, right? On top of that, he went to Foothill High School in Pleasanton, California as well. And he spent 5 years. He spent 5 years as a quarterback for Oregon State University. Was drafted in the 3rd round, 89th overall in the 2015 NFL draft. He spent about 10, 11 years in the NFL as a backup and or reserve quarterback. So he was able to spend a lot of time on the sideline, a lot of time in those quarterback rooms with these quarterback coaches, with these coordinators, with these starting superstar level quarterbacks, coaching them up, talking to them and breaking down what he's seeing. Because the starting quarterback or the backup quarterback rather, their role isn't just to sit there and eat sunflower seeds and chew on ice. Their role is also to, when that starting quarterback comes to the sideline, sit with him and say, hey, what you seeing out there? I'm seeing this. Coach him up. Sometimes the player can get through to, or sometimes your backup can get through to the starter more so than maybe your coach can in that particular moment, right? Because they see themselves more as peers in that regard. But regardless, Mannion was a backup quarterback for about 10, 11 years in the NFL on the sideline. He was a quarterback for the St. Louis and Los Angeles Rams, the Minnesota Vikings. He bounced between Seattle and Minnesota on their practice squads, right? But then eventually in 2024, he became an offensive assistant for the Green Bay Packers. Matt LaFleur coached him, if I'm not mistaken, and he knew he wanted to bring Sean in as an assistant because he knew he was a smart guy. So that's 2024. 2025 comes, Matt LaFleur promotes Shawn Mannion to quarterbacks coach. And in 2025, Jordan Love, although their season didn't go the way they expected, and Jordan Love did have his moments where he was not playing up to par, I think statistically, Jordan Love had one of his best years. Again, I know the season didn't necessarily go the way they expected it to go, but Jordan Love was extremely efficient in the 2025 season. He had a career high when it comes to passer rating. There's years on the docket where he had more yards and even more passing touchdowns, but Jordan Love did get hurt a couple times, and he was just more efficient this year, less turnovers, so on and so forth, right? And then also Mannion was coaching up Malik Willis, and we saw some pretty interesting tape from Malik Willis, right? He kept Green Bay entertaining for a little bit. But then he gets the job with the Philadelphia Eagles this season or this offseason as their offensive coordinator. And as a player, Mannion was coached under Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor, Gary Kubiak, Clint Kubiak, Kevin Stefanski, Dave Canales, Grant Udinski. Those are some pretty respectable names, right? And Sean Mannion is a guy who has kind of fast-tracked his coaching resume, fast-tracked his coaching career. And I think the reason for that is obviously the people who are hiring him, the people who's promoting him, think he's a smart guy, think he has a lot to offer. But even beyond that, if I'm just basing it off of what the trends have been and who's been getting interviews and who's been getting the jobs, these GMs and these ownership groups clearly are not only valuing youth, but they're also valuing that player to coach pipeline. They're valuing a guy's playing experience, a quarterback, because most of these guys are quarterbacks that get these jobs. They're valuing a quarterback's playing experience and coupling it with his coaching experience. And they're kind of adding it in the same pot of gumbo. They're kind of weighing it at the same rate. Remember, Phillip Rivers literally was in the running for the Buffalo job, right? So then we get to the new hire. Right? And the Philadelphia Eagles decided to bring in Josh Grizzard, or Grisard, excuse me. They decided to bring in Josh Grizzard. Now, Josh Grizzard, it's interesting. Josh Grizzard is the former offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he did lose his job this offseason. We're not gonna pussyfoot around that. He did lose his job? We can argue all day about why he lost his job. Was it premature? Should it have happened? Did he deserve it? We can go all day about why Josh Grizzard should have or shouldn't have lost his job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But he was available. And he was a guy who was also in the running for the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator job. He's a guy that got an interview. Nonetheless, he didn't get the opportunity as the OC. But the Eagles liked his personality or liked what he had to say clearly enough to offer him the pass game coordinator job. And Josh Grizzard is no stranger to being a pass game coordinator. And these offensive coordinator jobs, these head coaching jobs were getting snatched up. And sometimes it's hard to get picked up as an OC when you just got fired. So typically, if you were an OC in one season and you get fired or demoted, you typically have to take a couple steps back you got to take one step back to take a couple steps forward. So Josh Grizzard, going from OC back to pass game coordinator, he probably sees this as an opportunity for him to build himself back up, to get back into an OC role, to potentially get a head coaching role. All these guys want to be head coaches. Let's make that clear. All these guys want to be head coaches. And they all see the money attached to it. They see the prestige attached to it. They see the opportunity attached to it, right? We've seen guys like Ben Johnson take the opportunity and run with it. Dave Canales with the Panthers take the opportunity and run with it, right? Who else? D'Amico Ryans, head coach for the Houston Texans. I think he's had a relatively successful run with them, all things considered. Dan Campbell, Nick Sirianni, you got to put them in that category. These young guys who get these jobs, they've all been fairly successful in their own way. Dave Canales completely shifted the fortune of the Carolina Panthers, got them in the playoffs. They were easily one of the worst teams in the playoffs from just a pure top to bottom talent standpoint. But he built that team up, and they were well coached all year, and they played hard, they played tough, and they pushed the Carolina Panthers to the edge. Actually beat them earlier in the season. I think they have everything to be proud of over there. So, look, Josh Grizzard, let's take a look at his resume, because I do have a special guest for you guys coming on in a little bit. So I kind of want to get through his resume real quick. I don't want to waste too much time here. Josh Grizzard in 2012, while he was a student at Yale as a student assistant, he was also a team operations intern for the Carolina Panthers. In 2013, from 2013 to 2016, he was a graduate assistant and quality control coach at Duke. From 2017 to 2018, he was an offensive quality control coach for the Miami Dolphins. He was then promoted to quality control coach in 2019 for the Miami Dolphins. Then he was promoted again in Miami to the wide receivers coach. He did that from 2020 to 2021. Then he became the offensive quality control coach in Miami again. Now, remember, Miami went through a lot of coaching changes in that span. I think Brian Flores was the coach at one point, then Mike McDaniel. So sometimes your role changes not because of you. So then 2024, he gets the job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the pass game coordinator. Then he gets promoted to offensive coordinator with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw that in 2025. And Now he's the Eagles pass game coordinator this season for the upcoming season, 2026. And look, the reality is in 2024, Liam Cohen was the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, and their offense was way more potent. They were way more explosive in 2024. In 2025, their offense started off hot, but then they kind of tapered off and fell off in the second half of the season. It's easy to say Josh Grizzard is the reason why they regressed in 2025. If you really paid attention to that Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation, they suffered a ton of injuries. Not only on defense, but on offense in particular, at the skill positions. Mike Evans barely played. Chris Godwin barely played. Emeka Ibuka, I think he was their healthiest receiver. They had injuries at running back, injuries on the offensive line. That offense wasn't as healthy in 2025 as they were in 2024. I'm not trying to discount Liam Cohen what he did, because Liam Cohen did great things with the Jags this year as the head coach. He's clearly the guy for Jacksonville. But I want to properly judge and be fair to Josh Grizzard while he was the OC in 2025, while they dealt with a lot of injuries. So now Josh Grizzard comes to Philly. Let's move it forward now. He's in Philadelphia now. He's on Nick Sirianni's staff with Shawn Mannion as the OC, who's 33 years old. And Josh Grizzard joins the staff as the passing game coordinator, who's 35 years old. And I believe Nick Sirianni is like in his 40s. Nick Sirianni is 44. So your head coach is 44. Your OC is 33. Your pass game coordinator is 35. These are going to be the three people communicating with Jalen Hurts the most. We know Scott Loeffler right now. He's the quarterback coach as well. So you got those four names. Scott Loeffler at quarterback coach. Then you take it up a notch. Josh Grizzard at pass game coordinator. You take it up a notch. Shawn Mannion at OC. Then you got Nick Sirianni at quarterback. I like Scott Loeffler with Jalen Hurts, personally. And I think Jalen Hurts likes Scott Loeffler. I'm speculating. But I just want to zoom out and get a clearer picture about what the Eagles are doing here. Brian Johnson's no longer in the building. Kevin Patullo is no longer in the building. Because remember, there was a rumor. There was a rumor that Kevin Patullo, or they would find a role in the building for Kevin Patullo. Remember that. That was a rumor. There was a rumor circulating around the building, around Philadelphia, that, hey, even though Kevin Patullo lost his job, they're going to find a way to keep him in the building because he's Nick's guy, right? Obviously, that is not the case, and that was not the case, obviously. Obviously, that ended up not being the case. So, the Eagles are telling you something. And eventually, we're going to see press conferences, and we're going to see all that kind of stuff. But the Eagles are kind of telling you something. What they're telling us isn't up for debate. How you perceive it, now that's the conundrum. That's where things get interesting. They're telling us that not only did they believe their offense was stale, which we all know, not only do they want to bring in fresh ideas, they want to completely shift how they've been doing things. Because the word was they need to bring somebody in with experience, and they got to do this, they got to do that. They need an older guy that's not going to go anywhere. Josh Grizzard and Shawn Mannion, I'm telling you this right now, they have aspirations to be head coaches. They have those aspirations. They do. They do. And if they do well, they actually might become head coaches. The question is when. And when the Eagles were interviewing these guys, I'm pretty sure the conversation came up regarding their aspirations. Where do you see yourself in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? The Eagles understand completely that they have been doing this thing a disservice. Not on purpose, but you can't keep cycling through these OCs like this. It's hurting your quarterback. It's hurting your offense. And frankly, your offense has lost a lot of its spark. So you bring in Josh Grizzard. You bring in Shawn Mannion because they bring something that you haven't had. Potentially, they bring in creativity. They bring in nuance. They're going to see things a little differently, right? Shawn Mannion being a former player, he has those player eyes. He's going to be able to speak the language of the quarterback, that is Jalen Hurts. So I think overall, we have to wait and see how this plays out. We have to see how this plays out. I'm not going to say Shawn Mannion is a slam dunk hire. I'm not going to sit here and say Josh Grizzard, slam dunk hire. I can't say that. All I can do is operate off of their resumes and put the pieces together from there. Okay, Shawn Mannion, he's been coached under Matt LaFleur and all these guys. Okay, all right, cool. Okay, Josh Grizzard, former OC. All right, I get it. Okay, so these guys have some pretty stellar connections, and I can't wait to bring on my guest with you guys because I really value this guy's opinion, and this guy has been pretty well connected. He's been in the locker rooms. He speaks to the players. He's been a guy that I've had on the show before, and we're not going to waste too much time here. You guys know who this brother is. The esteemed OJ Spivey. Mr. Spivey, welcome back to the show, sir.
How you doing, Tom? Glad to be back on with you.
For sure. You know, I think the last time we spoke, we were discussing some of the turbulence as it pertains to the Eagles' offensive direction, the so-called rift between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. A lot has transpired since then. A lot. And, we're going to get into the Shawn Mannion hire as OC. We're going to talk the Josh Grizzard hire. We're going to get into that, right? But I want to get your perspective. I want to get a perspective from somebody who was in those locker rooms, speaking to those players, who actually was able to feel the energy shifts throughout the season. Give me your take on what you saw transpire from the last time we spoke up until this point.
Well, Tom, just pretty much throughout the season, what I got from talking to players in the locker room was, and this is just an overall vibe, and none of these guys said this verbatim, but basically what I noticed throughout the season was everything offensively was a chore. Everything was stressed. From the running game, which first and foremost was I think problem number one. Everybody talks about passing, but I think the running game from the beginning was stressed, and then that turned into the passing game. That was stressed. Number one, if you can't run the ball, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to pass the ball with any consistency. And then on top of that, you add the play calling or lack of design or lack of innovation with the play calling. I mean, these are tiered things, and everybody wants to blame one person or another, or as we do in Philadelphia, we have to find a villain, or we have to find someone who we can charge, try, convict, and ultimately execute. and that was Kevin Patullo, the offense coordinator. Rightfully so on many parts, because the more you looked at film, the more you looked at the games, he seemed to be in over his head.
Mm.
And when you have that, you're also going to have a ripple effect where there's a lack of trust. There's a lack of confidence with the players, and that starts with the quarterback. And it seemed evident throughout the season that Jalen Hurts didn't believe in this offense. He didn't believe in this play caller. And I always went back to right after the Super Bowl when those guys cleaned out their lockers. Everybody, of course, went to the Super Bowl MVP to get his take, because it appeared at that time that Patullo would be the offensive coordinator. And he said during that time, and he tried to be as diplomatic as possible, Tone, that Patullo may not be ready for this job. He literally said that it's going to be a new role for him. It's something that he's not done before. And someone as smart as Jalen, I've written about this, my current column kind of talks about it as well. Jalen's been around elite coaching for most of his career, going back to being coached by his father, who was a legend down in Channelview, Texas. Going to college, being coached under Nick Saban, Lane Kiffin, Lincoln Riley, to an extent, Brian Dable, who was his offensive coordinator at the University of Alabama. He knows what elite coaching looks like. And not to mention that he's smart.
Mm.
I mean, you're talking about a young man who's double degreed, son of a coach, son of two educators. And then, one of the things people could kind of say what they want about Jalen Hurts, and I guess he has his flaws. He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Playing quarterback, I don't care who you name. I mean, you talk about Joe Montana, who's won 4 Super Bowls, 4 known Super Bowls. I've seen him get crushed in the playoffs. So nobody's perfect all the time. And then, I know everybody wants this passing game to look elite. My thing is, this team is so talented. All the passing game has to do is look competent.
Seemed like that. You said competent, right? And I feel like that's kind of what we've all been saying all year, fans, content creators, journalists like yourself, even players. All we got to do is just be competent.
Because the talent is there. Exactly.
Yeah. And
an average passing game gets this team back to the Super Bowl.
And I think that was like the largest indictment on Kevin Patullo, is that he couldn't even get this passing game to look mediocre.
Right.
He couldn't cultivate a consistently average offense. It was highs and really low lows, and okay, looks like you figured it out this half. All of a sudden, second half, no scoring. And my whole position on that was, I refuse to believe all of a sudden Jalen Hurts just forgets how to play quarterback, or forgets how to play football. I refuse to believe all of a sudden these receivers forget how to run routes.
12 months after Super Bowl MVP, 12 months after both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith had fabulous postseasons, Saquon Barkley as well, of course, from the running game. But again, what I say what you want about Jalen Hurts, again, I always push back on the fact that there's a perception that he's not intelligent, he's not smart. And again, you can criticize him as much as you want, but when people go there, it becomes microaggressive, and that's something that I'm not going to stand for.
I'm with you on that. That's something I take personally, and I think for myself, I go so hard for Jalen Hurts because when these people are speaking about him, as you and I know, it's coded. It's coded. Oh yeah, Jalen Hurts prefers a simple offense. Oh, he doesn't like seeing the motions because it makes him uncomfortable. He only likes to do certain things. The coaches are only doing what he's capable of. All of that is coded to me.
The
because
limitations, the limitations as well, because that's the current buzzword now. It's like, okay, well, you're saying a Super Bowl MVP is not limited. Someone who has made the Super Bowl in 2 out of 4 seasons, he's limited. Okay, if he's limited to going to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years and winning one of them, I want those limitations every day, twice on Sunday.
yes, yes, because technically, on average, right now, you know, I was doing some quick math one day, right? And I was saying to myself, okay, there's 32 teams in the league, or 32 quarterbacks in the league, essentially starters, and only one team gets to win it all. And you do some quick math on that, that's a 3% chance of your quarterback hoisting that Lombardi trophy every single season. 3%. And the Philadelphia Eagles are making the playoffs at 100% clip. So at 100% clip, they're giving themselves a shot. Then when you extrapolate more numbers from that, you say to yourself, okay, they made it to 2 Super Bowls in that 5-year span. So now they're making it to the Super Bowl at a 40% clip. You take it a step further, they actually won it one time out of the past 5 years. So they're winning Super Bowls under Jalen Hurts at a 20% clip. I like those odds when you think about every team has a 3% chance of actually winning one out of 32 teams. I like his odds. And he's done more in this league than most guys. Or we saw Josh Allen crying at a podium because he let his team down. A guy that I've never seen a PR campaign like his in my life. And you're the journalist, you're the media guy, right? You understand the lay of that land way more than I do. I know I studied it in college, but you live it on a day-to-day basis. When you think about how Jalen Hurts has been covered in the media and how everything that you see down to these tweets are intentional. Every word, every character is intentional. And you see how the Josh Allen PR campaign, based off of his track record and what he did in this season and the playoffs and so on and so forth. When you compare, because I'm not comparing talent. When I talk about those guys, I'm not talking talent. I'm talking about just how they're covered. What's your take? What's your observation on the parallels between Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts and how they're covered as it correlates to their accomplishments and what they've been able to do in the biggest moments?
Well, first thing you have to understand, Tone, is black quarterbacks have always and always will be evaluated differently. And it's not just Hurts. It's Lamar Jackson to a degree. C.J. Stroud, even though he played terrible in that divisional playoff, I mean, people are talking about him being replaced, and he's up for a extension. But C.J. Stroud has more playoff wins than Justin Herbert.
Talk about it. Justin Herbert, by the way, be careful. He's their guy.
Yeah, he's their guy. Josh Allen is their guy. And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Josh Allen. I mean, he's a dynamic player. When he was here, 3 years ago, I think that was the first or second game the Eagles played Kelly Green. I mean, it was really a duel between him and Jalen Hurts. Of course, they don't play each other. They don't cover each other. But they went toe to toe. And I had an appreciation of Josh Allen. But as great as he is, he's reckless with the football. He's always been reckless with the football. And he has not done anything to rectify that. Case in point, go back to 2023 to where, and I think early 24, where Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over at a high clip. And week after week, I say he cannot turn the ball over. He's careless. He's careless. He completely changed that. Completely changed it. People were literally begging for this man not to turn the ball over because they knew, everybody knew, if they didn't turn the ball over, they would win more times than not. He did that. People literally begged for it, prayed for it. But When he goes on to win 10 in a row, people were complaining. It's like, oh, well, don't be that careful with it. If people are making the claim, I get it in a sense. But then that also becomes more of an entertainment factor as well. So, but as the few times that I've been able to ask Jalen questions, but um, I've talked to numerous people in the organization, and numerous people who are around the team. Um, he is and this is another thing that I wrote, and this is a quote. He's uncompromising by the way he goes about his work, and that's going to piss some people off.
Mm.
And some of the reports that you hear or that people are saying about him, that's part of that, because he's uncompromising by the way he goes about his work. And maybe some people want him to be a certain way or act a certain way that he's not, but he's probably the most calculated and driven athlete that the city of Philadelphia has ever seen. But look at the results. And another thing that I quoted, because another thing that I wrote actually, um, I'm a cultural guy, so I like quoting different movies, different lines, or TV shows and all. And if you're a fan of, what was that, the Power series, the Power Universe, or whatever you call it.
Shout out to 50 Cent.
Right. So Raising Kanan, the character that plays the character of Raquel, Kanan's mother. She said one time, and she was adamant. I forget who. I don't know if she's talking to one of her brothers or maybe Kanan himself. Oh, it was Kanan. She said, "You may hate my methods, but you love the results." And that's how I diagnose. That's how I, encapsulate Jalen Hurts, for lack of a better term. Everybody's not going to like how he goes about winning,
but it seems like
the results.
It seems like, OJ, you're right. The results are clearly there, and we all know the NFL is a results-based business. People pick and choose when it is and when it isn't, though, depending on who they're talking about.
That's why you have a third of the coaches in the league being replaced.
You nailed it.
And
I think we saw 10 jobs.
And here's another point, and I know we'll probably get to this, but another point, you have more than half of the offensive coordinators being replaced. What does that tell you?
I didn't even think about that. See, people pay attention to the head coaching cycle, but a lot of OCs, first-year OCs, have been fired this year. A lot of them, or guys who maybe had the job. Like
my last count is around 18, something like that.
Sheesh. It's so easy to get locked into the Eagles bubble when you're a fan of it. And, when you hear the national media or whoever say what they say about the Eagles or WIP or whatever it may be, that tugs at your emotional strings so much. But when you zoom out and actually think about the landscape, there has actually offensive production was down this year for the NFL as a whole.
I noticed that early in the season.
Yeah.
People complained about those, what was that, the 16-10 games? The AFC Championship game, I get it. It was Jarrett Stidham against Drake May. But even if Bo Nix was in there, I do think Bo Nix probably maybe would have won that game for Denver. But that's a 10-7 final. That was a 10-7 final. People complained about the Eagles games against Detroit and Green Bay. That was a microcosm of the season, and people are just so enamored with offensive production. And there's a difference between production and scoring. And I think people maybe are more enamored with scoring. Look at the Super Bowl. Who are the two head coaches? Former defensive coordinators.
Former defensive coordinators. That's actually interesting. Both coaches in the Super Bowl are former DCs,
and they beat McVay, and they beat Sean Payton, offensive gurus, correct?
When you zoom out, defense this year was about defense. And that's why, back to the Eagles' offensive problems and the way that Eagles defense is playing in the second half of that season, all they needed to do was be average.
Mm-hmm.
Because that defense was playing that well. And that defense gave them plenty of shots this year to win plenty of football games and won plenty of football games from them. Even the Chicago game that they lost and the defense allowed like 250 rushing yards, the defense still gave them opportunities to win that football game. So
because Chicago wasn't necessarily scoring at a great clip. Look at the NFC Championship game. I mean, that was high scoring. But look at Matthew Stafford. Has just as many rings as Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts been to more Super Bowls than Matthew Stafford. He threw for almost 400 yards, and he's 37 years old. Mm-hmm. But he hasn't been back, and that's an elite offense. So when we talk about limitations, when we get caught up in how it looks and what we see, and I'm not saying, and I don't want your listeners and your viewers to get things wrong. Yes, the offense must improve because again, the film didn't lie, and yeah, Jalen has some part of this. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, what are we really mad at? What are we really looking at? And I want to put this on Sirianni as well because it's ultimately his offense, and people are only executing what offense that he had in place. So if you want to, perhaps, and I think perhaps maybe, well, I don't think that was the reason, but I think some of the reasons why people in the media were so quick to come to Kevin Patullo's defense was, I think it was misguided towards the quarterback, but not Sirianni, because again, it's his offense. And, all people have to do, people have short memories. A lot of fans, a lot of media, talk show. Well, I really give talk show hosts probably, I don't have a lot of respect for them because, me and my other colleagues, other black writers, whatever, we have an acronym for WIP, Whites in Power. So, I didn't coin that term, but that's what one of my other friends calls it, whites in power. And most of those people, and I can assure you, Tom, they have no idea what they're talking about. No idea what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Really, and to take it a step further,
it's all conjecture.
You this. These guys, and look, man, get it how you live, right? But these guys, if you notice the infrastructure over there, their A mics lack talent, lack originality. They lack creativity, really. But the reason they're validated is because they pair them with a former player as their B mic. And that's what
former players is mostly there for comic relief.
Relief.
And their opinions aren't really taken seriously.
At all.
I mean, look at, and I don't want to go off topic, Tone, but you can always tell because it's part of entertainment, it's just part of narratives. Whoever you respect, like national writers or former players who have a national stage, and they go in there and tell them all the time respectfully they don't know what they're talking about, but that never fits their narrative, so they say, oh well, I disagree with them. And you don't tell me someone who disagrees, who is wearing 2-3 Super Bowl rings, they know coaching, they know players, they play with Hall of Fame, all those things, and you want to tell me that you are sitting there under a microphone and you disagree with them because it doesn't fit your narrative. It's just funny to me. But anyway, I always try to urge anyone who follows me or urge anyone who reads my articles and my columns to be an informed fan. You know, because there's so much just thrown out there now. This age of social media, it's just so much thrown out there, and it's just 99% opinion, 99% conjecture. And this is the ultimate thing. And again, I don't want to always keep it centered on Jalen Hurts, but I just really want people, and when people want to argue with me, and these are folks, white and black, I want people to really like when you pose your debate or your argument or whatever, just be honest with me. And I really want people to just be honest. And when you say, you know, you mentioned, Tone, how people feel about Jalen Hurts, where he's not given the respect that he has earned, not deserved, but he has earned. Not given the benefit of the doubt for being one of the, you know, and I hate using the term elite, but he's been one of the good or maybe great quarterbacks of this past decade, and he's only played half a decade. I mean, look at all the Super Bowl winners. I think it was NBC. They put up a graphic, and it was all the Super Bowl winners of the past decade. And I know it's kind of distorted because Mahomes and Brady have won each one like 3 or 4 times in the past decade. There are only 6 quarterbacks who have won the Super Bowl in the past decade. 6 quarterbacks, and Jalen Hurts is one of them, and he damn near won a second.
But it doesn't matter, OJ. It doesn't matter, OJ, because at the end of the day, like you said, Jalen Hurts, it seems like guys who have done less than Jalen Hurts get significantly more the benefit of the doubt because they deem them as more talented, right? And, you know.
That's fine. It's fine if you want to say that, but they still haven't gotten it done. He got it done. And I want people to just be honest, to just say, you don't like the way he gets it done. You don't like the way he plays quarterback. You don't like the way he looks playing quarterback. Or even another thing that I wrote about. You don't like the way he looks, or you're jealous of the way he looks because your wife or girlfriend tells him and we've had a former player all but admit to it and have his wife on his podcast and admit to it, and then his whole mood changed.
OJ, this has been my position, right? My position has always been, hey, listen, and it even goes for Nick Sirianni, right? You know, okay, say what you want about Nick Sirianni. You don't like his personality. Okay, cool. I can respect the honesty. You know, I just don't like I don't like his face. Okay, I can respect the honesty, right? But just be honest with me, right? Like, don't try to paint something that's really not there. Because at the end of the day, these coaches are based off of their wins and loss record. Like these coaches are judged based off their wins and losses. They're judged strictly off of that, their wins and losses. And Nick Sirianni has won way more than he's lost. Jalen Hurts has won way more than he's lost, right? Don't try to see, oh, these guys are unqualified, or I saw a graphic on the show First Things First with Nick Wright and Chris Broussard and Kevin Wildes, right? And I like Kevin Wildes. I like Chris Broussard. Nick Wright, you know, he's evolved into something else. But they had a graphic where they were showing, I think they said the 10 best head coaching hires since 2020 or 2021, something like that. And when Nick Sirianni's name came up, I think Nick Sirianni on the list was technically ranked like maybe 2nd or 3rd, just based off of the production. Yep. No opinion, just based off of what he's done. I think Nick Wright says something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, oh, I would say Dan Campbell was a better hire than Nick Sirianni was. I would say DeMeco Ryans, or I would say this guy, that guy, before I say Nick Sirianni. And I'm like, oh, these guys don't even realize they're quite frankly telling on themselves. They're telling on themselves. You're not basing this off of the cold hard facts. This is your feelings. This is your emotion. I would much rather you go on national TV and say, you know what? I don't like the guy, and that's why I cover him this way. All right, at least I know what your hand is. You're showing it to me. You keeping it funky. I can respect that. But when you try to blend,
no matter how funky it is, yeah.
When you try to blend your emotions into the facts and then try to use that to deem them as unqualified or underqualified, now I'm looking at you funny because at the end of the day, and then you say, hey, well, it's the roster, right? Well, all this stuff has to work in concert. You got to get the right GM, the right coach, and the ownership group has to be willing to spend money. And so, it's so much that goes into what we see on Sunday and what you ultimately get at the end of the year. There's so much that goes into that, but people want to continue to isolate that when it comes to the Eagles. Oh, Jalen Hurts is only good because of this roster. Any quarterback could have won with this roster, right? It's the roster, it's not Jalen Hurts. Oh, Nick Sirianni, yeah, the team is good, but he's not a good coach. Trust and believe, we've seen good coaches fumble great rosters. We've seen it. Like, it doesn't take much to fumble a good roster. It's actually more challenging.
We've seen quarterbacks do the same.
It's actually more challenging, OJ, for a quarterback and a head coach to manage a roster that's talented. It's more challenging to manage talent than it is to manage mediocrity.
And you're not even mentioning the egos that come with it. There's a lot of egos in that locker room.
For sure. You got all pros, pro bowlers, guys making big money.
From head coach. I mean, I don't particularly think Jalen has an ego, but he is incredibly confident and sure of himself. Self-aware, very self-aware. And a lot of people hate athletes, particularly black athletes who are self-aware. A lot of people make that uncomfortable. And I think that's what makes a lot of people uncomfortable in our locker room, to where that comes out. And, who knows where some of that stuff is leaking. Some people tell me that it's coming from some of the coaches' rooms. Some people even tell me that at times it's Nick Sirianni to cover his butt. But let me get on Sirianni for just a moment, if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I like Nick primarily because, with all of his limitations, if you will, his guys play for him. And the biggest knock for me is, and this is why they are in this position now every other year, he's not, and I never thought he was, and I stay with this, he's never been, in my opinion, a great offensive mind. He's not one of the great offensive minds of this era of football or during his tenure. And I think the more he realizes that, the more the organization, and I think maybe the organization does realize that now, because you bring in someone like a Shawn Mannion. Again, I'm sure you'll probably ask about that, but the more he realizes that, better off he'll be. And I push back with people saying, oh yeah, he's just CEO head coach. There's nothing wrong with being a CEO head coach.
Nothing. Some of the best coaches in history are CEO. Jimmy Johnson, CEO coach. Like, come on, Mike Tomlin became a CEO coach. John Harbaugh became a CEO coach. All those guys got Super Bowls on their resume.
Absolutely. And if your claim to fame is getting your guys ready to play each week, attention to detail, all those things, a lot of that got away this year, and that what I fought him for the most, along with the offense. But and part of great coaching is having great people around you that you can trust, that you can not even really go into a room and say, oh yeah, I have to sit in this meeting to, just make sure that this coach is doing this, that, and the third, and he's not being outcoached himself. I go back quickly. I watched something to where Tony Dungy was talking about his tenure in Tampa Bay. And of course, Mike Tomlin was one of his assistants. I think he was a defensive backs coach or assistant DB coach or what have you. And when he first hired Mike Tomlin, he hired him. He wasn't exactly sure. He went in one day to sit in the room, and he wasn't even in there 5 minutes because he noticed from the start how much command and control Mike Tomlin had with those position players. He said, I don't have to worry about this guy for as long as he's been here, and I knew I made the right hire. And basically, Tony Dungy, a former quarterback himself, you're talking about another. He turned into a great defensive coach, but he became at one time a defensive. When he became a head coach, he became a CEO head coach because he had his coordinators. So, if Nick kind of steps back and allow this young offensive mind to evolve, I think he'll be good. But you got to give him credit. But I think also his criticism is fair.
Yeah. And to your point about that, right? We give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit for being self-aware. I think, and this is coupled with your notion that Nick Sirianni isn't the sharpest, or let me not say sharpest, he isn't one of the elite or top tier offensive minds. He's not a Sean McVay. He's not a Kyle Shanahan, right? I think that's definitive. There's no debate about that.
And that's another thing. Shanahan has yet to win, by the way.
That part. And sometimes you can be too smart for your own good.
Exactly.
It's a real thing. My mom used to always say to me, sometimes you can be so smart you're dumb.
Yep.
So getting back to Nick Sirianni, he's I've always given Nick Sirianni credit for this. I've always considered Nick Sirianni to be a little bit more self-aware than people give him credit for. I know people see some of the sideline stuff. He's, his passion. That's just his personality, right? But when it comes to,
please finish though.
when it comes to his role as a coach, it took him 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks when he first got the job and said, you know what, call plays. Nah, hey Sean, I need you to do this. Or Shane Steichen, I need you to do this. It took him about maybe 5, 6, 7 weeks to say, nah, I'm not getting the best out of my guys. I'm not getting the best out of this opportunity calling the plays. I'm going to step back. Shane, call these plays. And then it's been that from that point forward. And his willingness to always play ball with Howie Roseman at GM and Jeffrey Lurie is a testament to why he's not only lasted as long in Philadelphia, but I think why he's done as well as he's done is because he got to a point where he knew where his value was. And understanding your value, understanding what you bring to the table is the best way to get the most out of yourself and also get the best out of the people around you. I don't know, how much value do you put into his self-awareness from a coaching standpoint? Again, I know sometimes sideline stuff, people say he's not self-aware at all. but how much stock do you put into his decision to become the CEO coach, the decision in and of itself to say, you know what, this is not my wheelhouse?
Well, I think I'll just bring it to this point. I just think for him to have more staying power, he has to pour into that a whole lot more now, because it's to a point now where he may really have to swallow his pride from the offensive standpoint, and realizing that, his philosophy now is not getting it done in today's NFL. And I used to think the NFL changes every 5 years or so. You could probably make the case that it changes every 3 years or so. But I just think the more he pours into being that CEO head coach, and he owns that. And I remember, one of my writing colleagues, Tim McManus, he said, what was that, a couple years ago, what do you do around here? I think he fumbled. You talk about self-aware. I think he fumbled that answer all the way. And probably what he should have said at that point. And it's so ironic that he went on to win the Super Bowl.
Same year, right?
That what he should have said was, I am the head coach of this team, and I am a great leader of men, and I have my guys ready to play. He should have said something along those lines.
So you think he hasn't, or at least historically, he struggled with the idea, because at the end of it, like you said, everybody has egos and belief in themselves. Not just those from the owner all the way down to the janitors or the equipment guys, right? Those guys have their own beliefs, they have their own belief in themselves as to why they're in the role they're in.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni, I think, to your point about that, I think he has struggled with the fodder that surrounded his role in his team. I think he has struggled with that. I think he has struggled with the idea of quantifying or even qualifying his value.
Well, in fairness, though, there is a power dynamic also with the Eagles. Always has been. And that's part of the reason why Doug Peterson didn't last as long. So they let you know where you are in the hierarchy. You know, it's the owner, Jeffrey Lurie. It's Howie Roseman, who is, people say he's a GM. He is also the vice president of football operations. He has a do-over role.
People forget that.
He runs the football show. And his deputies, his coaching staff, they all understand that. The players understand that. Howie runs the show under the complete trust of Jeffrey Lurie. And this is going to be tested with Nick now. Now that he's been to 2 Super Bowls, he's won one, struggle here again in an odd year. And what we suspect that his offensive authority is somewhat maybe being stripped away, even though you're bringing in a inexperienced offensive coordinator, but someone who looks to be innovative. That's going to be a test for him. How can he deal with that? Because nobody wants to be stripped of what they feel their philosophy is, especially when you've won with it. But the great coaches also know how to adapt. They know how to step back. And I think if he understands that, not necessarily gaining the owner's respect and the GM's respect, because ultimately you just stay employed. But I think that'll go a long way with the players, because the players had spoken out in different times of the season that we got to do some crap different. All but saying they were all trying to say in the most diplomatic way, they're on to us. We got to do something different.
You mentioned the test, right?
Yeah.
I think he's passed 2 of them so far, because the tests don't stop coming. But I think so far he's passed about 2 tests that's pretty clear to me. Test number 1, things went south in 2023. They bring in Kellen Moore. He completely becomes hands off from the offense. It's Kellen Moore's offense, or it's Nick Sirianni's playbook, but Kellen Moore is running the offense now, right? That was test number 1. You passed it. You win the Super Bowl with it, right? Test number 2. You promote your guy, Kevin Patullo, your man. Kevin Patullo, that's his friend.
That's his boy, yeah.
That's his friend. You promote him, things go south. He gets fired. And remember, the rumor after he got fired was, hey, they're probably going to find a role for him in the building. Maybe he goes back to pass game coordinator, whatever it is, right? Not only did he get fired and replace him, they brought in a new pass game coordinator, which further cements the fact that Kevin Patullo was out of this building. Right. So Nick Sirianni survived that. Remember, Doug Peterson, when things went south that 4-11-1 season, Doug wanted to upgrade Press Taylor to OC. He wanted more control over the situation. And Howie said, listen, that's not how this is going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. And Lurie stepped in and said, you know what? Okay, if we can't come to this agreement, you know what? Doug, walk. And that's what happened.
And Doug ultimately got sick of being told what to do.
Exactly. Ultimately got sick of being told. And that was year 5, right?
Yep.
And Nick has just passed the year 5 mark. And probably arguably has had more success than Doug, because he's been to 2, 1-1. Doug only been to 1, so on and so forth.
Overall better record.
Correct. Overall better record. So he's overall been a more successful coach with the Eagles than Doug Peterson. That's not opinion. That's just fact.
He's been, we got to tell the whole story. He's been one of the most successful coaches. In short, he's been one of the most successful coaches in NFL history. If we're looking at winning percentage and on certainly again the past 10 years. I mean, before the regular season ended, the Eagles had the best winning percentage since what, 2022?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think he's passed some of those gut check moments, those ego death moments so far, right? One, like I said earlier, giving up play calling duties his first year. Like he's suffered a handful of ego deaths as his Eagles head coach. Has he struggled with it? I'm sure, right? You mentioned how he fumbled that answer when Tim McManus asked him, "What do you do here?" That's quite frankly, and shout out to Tim McManus because he's good at what he does. You can't help but feel disrespected being asked that question.
Yeah.
You can't help but feel that. But how you respond to that is everything. And frankly, he fumbled that answer instead of just leaning into what it really is. Listen, sometimes when people ask you certain questions, don't focus on trying to convince them of what you do. Don't try to focus on trying to convince them of what you think they should know about you. Focus on what actually is known about you. Focus on focus on your true skill set. Focus on what you really are and your success. Mm-hmm. Don't try to convince somebody to overlook your failures. Double down on your success. And that is you have led these men year after year after year. My resume is this. I've done this with these guys. So people who want to debate about what do I do here, I win here. Simple as that.
He could have just said that.
Simple as that. And people could have took it how they wanted to, but guess what? You would respect it because you can't argue with it.
Yep.
You can't argue with it. So to move the conversation forward, OJ, because you give me so much of your time, man.
Sure.
We get to this new offseason with the Philadelphia Eagles, the 2026 offseason. We've pretty much broken down what we've seen from them offensively, right? Many argued, was it the offensive line? Was it the coordinator? And I think it was a combination of all those things. Some people say if the offensive line was better in the run game, or if the run game was better, could they have hid more of their issues? Maybe, right? But the reality is now we're here, and Kevin Patullo's out of the building, and they actually got rid of the other passing game coordinator. I forget my guy's name, but they still got Scott Loeffler as quarterback coach.
Parks Frazier, yeah.
Parks Frazier, yes. Parks Frazier is no longer the passing game coordinator. They've completely washed their hands of OC and passing coordinator. They got Shawn Mannion as the new OC, Josh Grizzard as the new passing coordinator. Shawn Mannion was the former quarterback coach in Green Bay. He was promoted to that from offensive assistant. He's kind of had a fast-track coaching resume. He's played 11 years in the NFL as a quarterback. Josh Grizzard, he was the former OC for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was one of those guys who got fired but landed on his feet with the Philadelphia Eagles as the passing game coordinator. He's done that role before. So now we're talking about a offensive staff with Nick Sirianni, who's 49, 48. No, 44, excuse me. He's 44. Nick Sirianni, who's 44 years old. Shawn Mannion, who's 33 years old at OC. Josh Grizzard, who's 35 at passing coordinator. And Scott Loeffler, who's like the old head in the room. What's your thoughts on this newly formed conglomerate as it pertains to Jalen Hurts and what we would like to see from him? Just give me your breakdown on how the Eagles got to this point, your opinion on their hiring or their hiring practices, and just give me your spin on how this transpired and how we got here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of youth there. And, from Sirianni's standpoint, people still think it's immaturity, right? And I wrote, in the 2024 season that one of the big reasons why people don't like Sirianni and his antics because he really behaves like your average Eagles fan. cussing at the refs, taunting, all those type of things, telling people to F off. Oh, that mirrors Eagles fans. That's how rapid and unhinged Eagles fans can be. But anyway, there's a lot of youth there. But I welcome it because you know what, again, I try to look at trends in the National Football League. And what year, and I'm saying, well, simply because McVay has won a Super Bowl, right? So he has built some type of pedigree, but I know he has his detractors because he's still a young guy. But I think going to that youth movement is really a testament of how the league is, because I believe, and as much as some Eagles fans wanted an established guy, and that's fair to say, fair to feel that way, the league is really, from an offensive standpoint, from offensive mind standpoint, it has really become a young man's game. It really has. And I think McVay, what year is this for him? Is this what, maybe 8 years or something like? He's actually one of the longer tenured head coaches now. And I think he's barely 40 or just turned 40.
He just turned 40 January 24th.
Okay, he just turned 40 last week. Right.
And he's been with the Rams since 2017. He's entering year 10. This would be 2026 would be his 10th season.
Yeah. And Eagles fans are, and I get it. They want somebody who can be first of all good, but someone who has some tenure in the league and maybe don't have any aspirations to leave, to where Jalen doesn't really have to have, or this offense for that matter, have to have OC after OC after OC. But that's really not how the league is going. The league is really a young man's game, and it's about innovation. It's about creativity, and not to say that older cats can't do that, but these are who people are looking for, and I think that's also why someone kind of looked. I think the best of both worlds is probably Mike McDaniel, because he's still young, but he has some tenure in this league, being formerly the San Francisco OC. Fascinating dude, by the way. I mean, whether he wins or not, I just think he's an interesting dude. But I think people wanted the best of both worlds, but it's hard to find that. People want the equivalent of Vic Fangio, but as an offensive coordinator, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And I think it is a little scary for people because Mannion has not called plays as of yet. He hasn't had the job before, but I think two things: him being a former quarterback, you can kind of, you're also a de facto OC in waiting, or at least a quarterback coach, right? And it's so funny because time is flying, because I just remember seeing Mannion play on a Saturday night when he played for Oregon State, right? But people are looking for certain things, but you have to understand the dynamics of the job in the NFL nowadays. They're going to be younger guys, and if you're looking for that innovation, looking for that creativity, that's probably who you're going to get it from for the most part. And you say, oh yeah, well, if he's good, he's going to leave. That's what you want, because again, what's the end game? What are the results? Okay. If the results are that you get back to another Super Bowl and you are lucky enough or good enough to get another parade, okay, that's what it's all about, correct?
Yeah.
Because again, as good as someone like a Kyle Shanahan is, an offensive guru who's been to 2 Super Bowls, as many Super Bowls as Nick Sirianni, he has yet to get it done, and he's one of the great offensive minds of this era. But if you bring someone in like a Shawn Mannion, and he can sort of replicate what he's seen under that Shanahan McVay tree, and incorporate into all this talent that has already won before, that is already battle tested, that is the potential that we're looking here. And also another dynamic is what I said back with Jalen Hurts. He just needs somebody that can that he can respect. And ultimately, what I said earlier about him knowing what good coaching looks like, premium coaching looks like, he just wants somebody who knows what the hell he's doing.
Very simple. Very simple.
Because he can spot that a mile away. And we've seen hints of it. We've seen him talk about in press conferences, and people need to stop. People need to start now. And I get it. It's frustrating. It's even frustrating for me that he talks in a lot of cliches, but you have to listen intently to what he says in between the cliches. Because
he's telling you, if you listen,
a lot of nuggets. He gives you a lot of nuggets. This is what he's about, what he requires, what he understands, what he thinks is positive, what he thinks is negative. You know, people ought to know by now. And it's kind of crazy that, and I try not to laugh at press conferences because at the time, and again, this is all due respect, half the time the reporters still don't know what to ask him.
I think he really makes certain people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, again, that's the whole dynamic, which shapes opinions, which shapes narratives, and it can be just as simple as that, Tone. It really can. But going back to Mannion, again, what do we talk about early in the show? If he has any level of competence, any level of, and it doesn't have to be game changing. He doesn't have to be a genius. He just has to be a good young offensive mind.
You're right, because Mannion, what he's been able to do in his young lifetime. Yeah, he was a backup reserve quarterback his entire NFL career. Spent about 10, 11 years in the league. And look, the league has no problem washing guys out if you have no value. They have no problem doing that. But he's managed to get jobs. So it must mean he must know something. Maybe the talent didn't equate, but he clearly knew something in these quarterback rooms, in these locker rooms where teams wanted to bring him in. You know,
apparently Green Bay didn't want to lose him. So
didn't want to lose him. He was coached in St. Louis and LA Rams, Minnesota Vikings. You know, he bounced between the Seattle Seahawks and Minnesota practice squad. I mean, look, the reality is, as a player, he was coached by Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor, Gary Kubiak, Clint Kubiak, Kevin Stefanski, Dave Canales, Grant Udinski. He's the OC in Jacksonville.
All of them are still relatively young guys,
and guys who are pretty respected in terms of their football acumen, right? Sharp offensive dudes. That connection is fascinating to me because you know how when we talk about coaches, we always talk about their coaching tree. Who are they connected to, right? I think with these owners and GMs now, and this goes to your point about it being a young man's game, these owners and GMs, whenever they hire these young coaches, especially their former players, and people say, wow, I mean, he has no coaching experience. How did he get this job? I think these owners and GMs are putting more stock into these guys' playing experience and coupling it with their coaching experience. Now, I think that playing experience is starting to get more weight in these coaching circles because, perfect example, Phillip Rivers, he was in the running for the Buffalo head coaching job.
Well, I thought that was extreme and crazy.
It was, but it just speaks volumes about where these owners and GMs, where their mind is, right? And
it's a bit of desperation with that one, but and you know, I think you're gonna get me in trouble now. So, you know, it opens up another can of worms as far as ownership is concerned and winning in the NFL. I mean, in my opinion, half the owners don't know what they're doing, but I think part of that is intentional too, because you can really make the case for at least half the league. The NFL's, and I know you can understand this, Tone. With the business model in the NFL, we just seen last couple of days what the salary cap's going to look like, right? The business model in the NFL is not for you to win. So a lot of owners understand that. Maybe someone want to win and they don't know how to win, but they know how to keep that money coming in.
Oh, Jay, a lot of these, I be trying to tell people, and I try to tell Eagles fans, what we experience every day, what we experience with this organization is a luxury. It's not normal. Most of these owners don't care about winning.
They don't.
They don't care. Most of these owners do not care about what they want you to think that. They want you to believe that because they want you to keep coming to the games. But I would make the argument, and I have nothing to substantiate this, but I would make the argument more than half of the owners in this league don't care about winning.
You're absolutely correct. Because you know why? I talked about the business model. The way the business model was set up, the revenue sharing, all of that, there is no added incentive to go out of your way to win, because it's like a Las Vegas casino, Atlantic City casino, or casinos all around the country now, right? So it's like a casino. The house is always going to win.
Mm.
They've set up the business model so perfectly that the house will always win. So why would I go above and beyond to win, where the revenue keeps going up, TV revenue, salary cap, advertising. You'll see all these numbers come up in the Super Bowl. I mean, literally the TV revenue every year, because the Packers have to, because they're still technically a public company, they have to reveal how much TV revenue they get every year. We'll find out probably sometime next month. The TV revenue is at a point to where you can cover the whole salary cap. You could cover your team salary, your players' salaries from the TV revenue alone, and still have money left over. Right? And again, if people are going to come to the games, pay for tickets, pay for personal seat licenses, all those things, why, and you share all this ticket revenue, why do you have to go above and beyond? And this is also why you see with these new stadiums how they can hold municipalities and states hostage to build them a new stadium. Even though they have the capital, they have the credit to build one themselves. It's so they say, well, why should I do that when I can hold the city and the state hostage to do it for me?
Exactly.
The whole capitalism aspect. And again, my job is to, part of our job is, even though I'm not, I don't think sports is, and I get in trouble for this, because covering sports to me is not the same as holding politicians accountable, or covering the Iran-Contra hearings.
It's entertainment at the end of the day. It's not, we're not saving lives talking about what we're talking about right now.
I'm not going to bang my head against the wall and asking Devontae Smith why did he drop the ball in that Washington game 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Because again, it is investigative reporting in a sense, but I'm not covering a dirty politician who's misappropriating funds or taking bribes from taxpayers. I mean, owners are taking money from taxpayers to build stadiums and everything, but it's a different dynamic.
The stakes are different,
right? But if I'm covering Brett Favre stealing $2 million of welfare money, that is different, because you are literally stealing from the people, right? So getting back to my original point, Tone, and this is not that we shouldn't hold the Eagles accountable, because we're all fans at the end of the day, most of us anyway, who at least are from Philadelphia or whatever city. But you look back at it, you look at the whole business model, you ought to be lucky that you have an owner that's even remotely interested in winning. He wants to win.
Yes.
It took him a long time to figure out how to win. But for the most part, he's been successful in this past decade, this past 8 years. Come on, man. I mean, I go back to when I was a kid and I saw Ron Jaworski throw 3 interceptions to the same guy in Super Bowl 15. You know, I go back to Eagles games being blacked out, and I'm forced to watch Washington. I'm forced to watch the Jets on the other channel. I've been there. And I know younger fans hate to hear this, but y'all freaking spoiled, man. You really are. You don't
And
know what suffering looks like.
Look, and to your point, I was born in '94. My era starts with Donovan McNabb being drafted, personally. So
Mhm.
that's where my Eagles fandom begins.
Right.
I have to be intentional about doing the research about the guys of yesteryear. I have to be intentional about that. And in doing so, it's put me in a position where I actually understand where the Eagles are, where they've been. And I'm pretty grateful that I'm living in this era and got to experience this era, as a young man. And because like it's just one of those things where, and we can begin to close the show with this. The reality is, people want to criticize the Eagles' infrastructure so much and how they go about their business and who they hire and yada yada yada. They want people who are controllable. Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, they're just puppeteers running this whole thing, and they want to criticize all that yada yada yada. And you know what I say? So look at the results. Look at the results. There are so many teams, so many organizations in this league that A, don't really care about winning, and B, they're constantly looking for a head coach to establish culture or establish some sort of infrastructure, right? They want to bring these coaches in to completely change their organization from top to bottom. And reality is they can't. Because at the end of the day, the coach is not the owner, the coach is not the GM. The coaches are just going to come here and just change how you do things. The Eagles have been building this infrastructure brick by brick by brick for over 2 decades. And we are finally starting to see the hard work by Jeffrey Lurie starting to take fruition. And you have to be grateful for that and understand that what you're experiencing as an Eagles fan, all things considered, whether you like it, win, lose, or draw, you are in, quite frankly, the best era of Eagles football that has ever existed. And you have the right to criticize what you see. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying be quiet. I'm not saying shut up and buy tickets, because Eagles fans, y'all spend a lot of money on concessions. Y'all spend a lot of money on tickets. Y'all spend a lot of money on parking. Y'all spend a lot of money on babysitters and those flights and the tailgates. Y'all are invested in these teams, in your respective teams, as much as anybody else is. It's all relative. But all I'm trying to get across is, when you criticize the Eagles' infrastructure and how they do business, that's where you lose me. Because they're one of the only teams in the league that actually have a true hierarchy, a true infrastructure, and that's actually led to tangible results. So whatever they've done, whatever you dislike, 2 Super Bowl rings in the past 8 years, I wouldn't change a thing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's okay to criticize. It's okay to be um to critique, to even sometimes be skeptical. But as a writer, I just try to put it in perspective, because again, I'm not covering congressional hearings, or I'm not covering uh the Epstein files, or I'm not handling a crooked city council person. So that's the way I look at sports. I try to have fun with it. um and I think people should have fun with it. I try not to tell fans what to do, but I do try to encourage them to be uh an informed fan, an educated fan, and put things in perspective. So
Simple as that. Mr. Spivey, OJ, as always, man, you treat me too well. And I always appreciate your time, the time you dedicate to your craft. Of course, you at the Philadelphia Tribune, all the work you guys do. It doesn't go unnoticed.
thank
One
you.
of the one of the last surviving, one of the most respected, one of the largest, if not the largest, Black publication, Black owned newspaper in the country. And well, you know what? Real quick, what was your thoughts on that Jack. I forget the lovely lady's name. She was the reporter from the Black-owned publication in Jacksonville.
Oh yes, Lynn. Gosh, I forget her last name.
Is it Lynn Toller? No, Lynn. I don't want to misrepresent her name, but she was criticized heavily about how she handled Liam Cohen after they lost to the Buffalo Bills in the wild card round. And all she did was just give that brother a sense of encouragement.
Lynn Jones is her name.
Lynn Jones. Shout out to the great Miss Lynn Jones. I want to get your thoughts on that situation because a lot of journalists have been criticizing her. Some have come to her defense. It's been a mixed bag, right? I think your opinion is valuable in this moment. Your perspective at the very least. What was your assessment of that situation?
Well, thank you, Tone, for asking me. First of all, it just got way out of hand. I think with the criticism, it became an attack on her. It became microaggressive and even in some aspects racism. It's not something that I personally would have done. But I have told players that, I'll just say something maybe after interviewing them saying, good luck on the rest of the season, or, that was tough for you. I know that was, this, that, and the third, but I never allowed that to go on camera. Because I just thought that was just a personal thing for me. And then, I also didn't maybe want to compromise the player and everything because, you often get criticized for being too close to the players or getting buddy, and I'm not even particularly closer to any players. But it's just not something that I would have done, but she did not deserve the level of criticism that she got, and even from some of my Black colleagues where I was disappointed in. Again, it just got way over the top. And it's funny that you mentioned her. Well, it's great that you mentioned her because Lynn Jones, she will be a member of NABJ Philly. We have a new Philly chapter, and we'll be speaking with Miss Jones next week at our monthly meeting. So we want to hear her. We want to hear her story. We want her voice to be elevated. And she's had 30 years in the business. She knows what she's doing. And another thing that I want to make the point of, I have been in way too many press conferences. I have been in way too many situations where other journalists, primarily white journalists, they break the effing rules all the time. So we as a profession can't sit on our high horse and say, oh yeah, this should be this and this should be that. And the way journalism is being attacked by who's in the White House right now, we should all be on the same page because, again, no matter what you say in a press conference, sometimes just when it gets to like a political standpoint, and you'll see some of these owners are very connected to the current administration, and many of them are supporters. So when you get to that point where you're covering those type of things, they want all these ethics to go out the window. They want to get rid of journalism, period. So we both need each other, and we all need each other, and we need to support each other. But it's really not like that, because just if you want to dig in and peel the onion, and if you ever want to do this on another show, Tone, I'll be glad to do it, because I have plenty of stories in journalism to where I see people break the rules literally every week or every time I'm in a press conference. And I'm like, I know if I would have done that, I would have been looked at crazy. I probably would have been thrown out. My credential will be taken. I just know that it's different strokes for different folks. But, the stuff that I've seen people get away with, it's really crazy. And not even to mention the people that they let in the rooms that don't belong in there. Like, again, I could do a whole show on this. But going back to
Yeah.
Miss Jones, I appreciate her. I respect her, even if that's something that I wouldn't have personally done. But I'm all here to support her.
And I think that's a very fair assessment of that. Hey, would I have done it? Maybe not. But she didn't deserve that, though. Because at the end of the day, you said 30 plus years she's been in the business doing her thing. She's been, in Jacksonville, that is, she's been covering that organization. And we're talking about the Jacksonville
This is
Jaguars.
inception. Yeah.
Since its inception. Do you know how difficult it is to even go to work every day and cover the Jacksonville Jaguars for 30 plus years? She's been in that building talking to those players for that long, and she's seen significantly more losing than anything else.
Yep. And here's another thing.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
And I'm glad our current president, NABJ president, national president, Aaron Haynes, she said this in a statement supporting Lynn Jones. And this is something that we cannot lose sight of, whether you're a Black fan or Black media. Okay. Journalism has different rules when it comes to Black people. I mean, even like when I'm in a press conference, I'm trying to get a question in, and then you have the team or whoever's PR, and they're giving special treatment to the white writers, and I can't get a question in, or one of my colleagues can't get a question in. And again, what are the rules of journalism? Because they've been so finagled now. And again, for it to be one of the few Black writers that's in a press box every week, count on one hand at Eagles games. I go to Phillies games. I'm often the only one, and I'm not even there much. Same with Sixers game. The Philadelphia 76ers, they have one Black beat writer. That's Keith Pompey.
Shout out to my man Keith. Love Keith. Love what he does.
Oh yeah, that's my homie. He looked out for me when I started covering Sixers games. So he's the only Black beat writer. He's the only Black writer on Sixers beat. There's something freaking wrong with that. And I'll just leave it there.
OJ, again, thank you so much for your time. You've been phenomenal as always, man. So super insightful, super poignant. And I think the work you do, I think your presence in this game, in this industry, in this media is extremely necessary, especially where we are as a sports media, where we are in sports media culture, where we are as a country. I think your role in what you represent extremely necessary and extremely important, and above all else, extremely valuable. OJ, thank you. And I'll be in contact soon, sir.
All right. Thank you for this kind words, Tone, and you have a great show. So I always try to make time for you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You take care. God bless.
All right, now.
Shout out to OJ Spivey. I mean, OJ does, again, like I said, phenomenal work covering your Philadelphia Eagles, who I believe is one of the should be one of the most well-respected journalists covering your Philadelphia Eagles, who actually cares about knowing what he's talking about, who cares about understanding what he's seeing, who actually cares about giving you information and not emotion or opinion, right? I mean, sure, OJ has his opinion, and he's able to share his opinion on Chalk Up Sports or any other, station or whatever that he may make an appearance on. But when it comes to the journalistic integrity that he maintains and the respect that he commands, don't play with that man. Don't play with that man. Do not play with OJ Spivey. I think OJ deserves way more shine, way more opportunities to speak on these big name local radio stations covering the Eagles. I mean, I see guys come. I see so many guys speaking about the Eagles who are journalists, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but they can't even hold a candle to OJ's writing. That's just my opinion, and they're only validated because of who they're connected to, or who they know. Or I can take it a step further than that, but I won't. So, I appreciate OJ Spivey for taking a time out for making another appearance on Chalk It Up Sports. And I hope you guys appreciate it as well. I mean, again, he's a bevy of information. He's insightful. And you can tell he cares about what he does. He cares about being fair. He's not in this to just sell you something. He's not just trying to emote all the time. He actually wants to give you guys fair journalism. He wants to give you guys fair journalism. He's not trying to incite you. You know, he's not trying to antagonize you like some of these other radio stations and publications do in Philadelphia. He's good at what he does. He's great at what he does. So make sure you guys lock in on OJ Spivey on Twitter, on X, how you want to look at it. He's a great follow. He's engaging. Make sure you guys lock in with his writing on the Philadelphia Tribune website. And that's our show. That is our show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys really, really got a lot out of it. Again, before we go, as a friendly reminder, your Philadelphia Eagles, they have a new offensive coaching hierarchy, a new offensive coaching staff to a degree. Shawn Mannion, former quarterback coach for the Green Bay Packers, is now the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's being joined by Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard is the former Tampa Bay Buccaneers OC, and he has become the Philadelphia Eagles pass game coordinator. So your hierarchy is Nick Sirianni, Sean Mannion, Josh Grizzard, and Scott Loeffler at quarterback coach. Will they be able to get the best out of Jalen Hurts? Will they be able to be assets and not liabilities? I think we're going to see a new spin on this Eagles offense. It's guaranteed to happen. The question is, will it be productive? Will it be a potent offensive attack? OJ Spivey said it multiple times. This offense didn't need to be electric last year. They just needed to be good. They needed to be above average. Because the way that defense is playing, the Eagles offense didn't need to be what it was in 2024. They just needed to be solid. And they weren't even able to do that under Kevin Patullo. So a lot of pressures on Nick Sirianni now. A lot of pressures on Jalen Hurts. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, they have completely revamped the voices that Jalen Hurts is going to hear from an offensive play calling perspective and the concepts. Expect Josh Grizzard to have a different approach. Expect Shawn Mannion to have a different approach. Will it work? It all remains to be seen. And I tell you guys all the time, my man Marcus Thomas tells you guys all the time, all these playbooks aren't really that different. And these playbooks have thousands of plays, thousands. All these coaches, for the most part, are operating under the same cookbook, the same ingredients. But everyone's meal comes out different. Some's a little more spicy. Some's a little bit more sweet. Some is a little bit more savory, you know? Whatever it may be, is the meal good or not? And Kevin Patullo couldn't boil water. That was the reality. Under Shawn Mannion, Nick Sirianni, and Josh Grizzard, it has to be different. It has to look different. It has to feel different. And Jalen Hurts has said it multiple times. We are not creative enough. And he said it in his own way, of course. But he said we rely too much on deep passes. We're not taking advantage of the middle of the field. Jalen Hurts is on record criticizing what this offense relies too heavily on and what they don't do enough of. And Jalen Hurts has shown an ability to develop every single year, especially when he's with someone he respects and trusts. I'm not going to all of a sudden believe Jalen Hurts can't play football anymore. I'm not going to all of a sudden believe that Jalen Hurts can't develop as a quarterback. I'm not going to all of a sudden let people convince me that Jalen Hurts is incapable or he's limited or he prefers a simple offense. He can't understand complex concepts. All that stuff is coded to me. All that stuff are microaggressions to me. And at the end of the day, when you mention Jalen Hurts' name, make sure you put Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP in front of it. And it's straight like that. I've been your humble host, Tone DeShields II. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I really do appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. You guys have been fantastic as always. Thank you guys for being great hosts. To my man, OJ Spivey. He made his second appearance on the channel, and it definitely won't be his last. So, again, smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Chalk It Up Sports. Go follow and lock in with my man, OJ Spivey, on the socials. Go lock in on his work at the Philadelphia Tribune. And it's straight like that. You guys have been tuned in to Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.